Hey everyone, it's Steven. Today I have the 2024 BMW iX xDrive50. I've been wanting to get my hands on one of these for quite a while now, since this is BMW's first fully electric SUV available in the States. And let's be honest, this grille is something. So the iX is a luxury electric midsize SUV, about the same size as their X5, so it competes with things like the Audi Q8 e-Tron and the Mercedes EQS SUV, but those are all at vastly different price points, where you have the Audi, which is the cheapest of the bunch, and the Mercedes EQS is above $100,000 starting. This model first debuted in 2022, to much fanfare about its grille, and the one I have here is the 2024. No real big changes over the last few years, but the 2024 does get the highway assistant driving as part of its driver professional package, and that basically is their semi-autonomous driving, where you can actually do hands-free, which is pretty neat. So the 2024 iX xDrive50 starts at about $87,000. That is a lot of money, and these can quickly get quite expensive. The M60 starts above $100,000. As tested, this one I have here is right below $100,000. It's like $99,000 or something like that. But it comes pretty decked out with some really beautiful interior amenities, and then you've also got a lot of packages where you get the heads-up display, 360 camera, and a lot of cool goodies. You've also got a decent amount of range on this. With a 111.5 kilowatt-hour battery, you get about 307 miles of all-electric range with these 21-inch wheels. If you get the smaller wheels, the 20-inch wheels, you actually get up to 324 miles of range. And even though this is the base trim, it is certainly no slouch. You've got 516 horsepower, 564 pound-feet of torque, gets you 0 to 60 times in about 4.4 seconds. This is thanks to the dual electric motor setup with standard all-wheel drive. And since this is a pretty hefty vehicle, you've got 83 city, 82 highway for a combined 83 miles per gallon equivalent, making this a little bit less efficient than some rivals. All right, let's talk about this wild exterior. So when this first came out in 2022, I remember people were really panning this exterior. Honestly, I don't hate it. I feel like I don't really particularly like it, but I will say I approve of the fact that it is making a bold statement, and honestly I think that's what BMW wants, right? That's with all their new vehicles, they're really in your face and very aggressive. You've got these nice sleek LED headlights. They keep turning off, which is why I keep pressing the unlock button right here, but they look nice, very similar to the design language in the rest of the BMW lineup. The grille here, since this is an all-electric vehicle, no real vents or anything, just you've got some cool little triangles everywhere, right? You'll notice that triangle theme actually continues throughout the rest of the vehicle. On these side skirts right here, they have this interesting pattern of these triangles. That'll also be in the interior, which is pretty cool. I like this color though. This is called the Black Sapphire Metallic, and I think it actually looks quite good on the iX because of that kind of bold exterior look. A unique part of this one here is that it has the $2,500 Sport package, which gets you some cool things like the 21-inch dark aero wheels, which I actually don't love that much, but they are 21 inches, so a little larger than the standard 20-inch wheels, and you've also got these nice blue brake calipers as well. Aside from that, there's really not too many notable elements on the front. Of course, you've got that crazy buck teeth grille, which again, I think it's fine. I do wish that this one had the one where it lights up. I do think that looks very cool at night. Though I guess some people, if you don't like that grille, you're probably not gonna like that lit up either. There is no frunk on this vehicle, which I think is kind of crazy, and a lot of people dislike that, because I mean, one of the coolest pros of an EV is that extra cargo capacity. I also do want to point out one really cool thing you might notice is that the windshield here is very reflective. That is because it is a thermally insulated windshield, so that kind of is a luxury touch that helps prevent the heat from getting into your vehicle. All right, on the side profile here, very boxy, right? You'll kind of notice this is a pretty large vehicle. It's much larger than I initially expected it to be, honestly. And I think that's actually probably why it's not selling as well as some people want it to. You'll also notice that you've got kind of flush door handles. They're not exactly flush, but it's kind of cool. You reach inside and you can open it up like that. Of course, you've got keyless entry on this vehicle as well. So going into the rear of the vehicle, you do have this cool iX like etched into the side. That's a pretty neat place to put a badge. You've also got the actual badge in the rear with this cool blue tinge on the eye, indicating that it is an electric vehicle. Pretty cool. You have this bit of an interesting spoiler, kind of gives it a bit of a sporty look here in the back. And then you've also got these nice taillights. I actually do really like the design of the rear. I think it's a lot less controversial than the front. Though I will say for a $100,000 vehicle, I don't think this looks that special. And I think that's kind of my problem with it, is that I wish it has a cool like light bar or something that looks a little more unique. This does look good. I think it just kind of looks like a $50,000 BMW, right? Not something that's twice the price of that. I will say that with the Sport package, you get these cool blacked out clear taillights. Very, very interesting. Looks quite good, especially with this fully blacked out vehicle in general. You've also got a bit of a rear diffuser in the back. It looks cool, right? I think a lot of these angles, it looks kind of modern and kind of like a transformer in a way. Going into actual trunk here, this part is pretty cool. Of course, it's power liftgate, and you've got 35.5 cubic feet of cargo space. So this is a pretty large trunk. Also, you'll notice I have it set to be a little lower, but you can set it to go higher. But yeah, you've got a lot of cargo space in here. You've also got some nice buttons to lower the rear seats in a 20-40-20 split. With the second row down, you've got almost 80 cubic feet of cargo space. So you can pretty much keep whatever you want in this vehicle. Very, very practical. All right, let's take a look at the interior of the 2024 iX. All right, you've got keyless entry as expected. So you've got this nice insert right here where you can easily lock the door, and you can reach under here to open the door. And I love this color. We'll talk about this a little bit more in a second. First, I want to show you guys the key fob. All right, key fob is pretty simple. I kind of wish it was a little more special considering you're driving a very expensive, pretty much flagship electric SUV at this point. But yeah, I wish it said something like I in it or something like that. I don't know, to indicate it's electric, kind of like it does on the screen right there. So yeah, but this color is just such a cool color. This is called Castania, something like that, chestnut, which is a certain type of chestnut. And it actually, I looked up pictures of it, and it looks just like this color. It's very cool. It's kind of like a, I don't even know what to describe it as, red, orange, brown. Like, it's a very, very gorgeous color. I do like that it contrasts a lot with the black exterior. And before we step inside, I do also want to point out that inside of the door sills, you've got this really interesting, it's not actually a texture, it's all just like plastic essentially, but look at this. It's a very interesting pattern. And I think I've never seen that on the door sill of a vehicle before, and I think that's a really cool, neat touch. I like that a lot. All right, let's look at these door panels really quickly. You get this anthracite headliner that, I don't, you probably can't really hear it too much, but it's a very interesting kind of cloth-like material. And you've got the Harman Kardon sound system. That one is part of the package, and I think it's like, gosh, 16 speakers or something like that, but it's a pretty darn good sound system, and I was really impressed by it. Usually Harman Kardon doesn't impress me too much, but on some of the other like higher end BMWs, I think they've got a really great sound system. You can upgrade to a more powerful Bauer & Wilkins sound system, which is I think what we had in the i7, and that was pretty crazy. That was beautiful with the 4D bass and everything. All right, you probably can't tell too much on the camera here, but this accent here is actually bronze gold or gold bronze or something. They call it something like that. You can tell a bit more with the seat adjustment thing right here. But yeah, it's actually not just aluminum. It's bronze gold, which is pretty cool. All of these buttons are very high quality. These all feel very good, clicky. They don't feel cheap at all. And I will say this anthracite headliner, really, I do have to compliment this a lot. Very, very cool standard thing that I didn't even get in my Porsche Macan. So pretty cool that BMW offers that standard across all of the iX. Okay, so let's talk about these seats. I think they look quite good. This kind of gaping hole in the middle is a little strange, but I think it looks good and definitely doesn't interfere with your comfort of the seats. You've got some nice, very large side bolsters, and I love this quilted pattern. This is, I think they call it Sensitech perforated leather here, and it feels very good. I honestly think these seats are some of the most comfortable I've driven, and I really like these. Excellent for long car rides, and just overall very, very beautiful, right? The stitching is really nice, very intricate, feels deserving of that six-figure price tag. I will say one interesting thing about this interior is that you've got these really interesting leaves right there, which I don't know if it's like a custom thing that the guy who bought this vehicle added, or like if that's just to indicate that this is an electric vehicle, no emissions, like, you know, something like that. I don't really know, but I thought that was a very unique touch that I haven't seen in any other BMW i4, i7 or anything like that. So that's kind of a cool, interesting quirk here. One thing that kind of disappointed me is that there's no ambient lighting in the middle of this cabin. I would say that the ambient lighting on these sides are great. You've got the standard ambient lighting kind of on your near your window and your door pockets and your door sill and everything and your footwell, but there's just nothing in the middle, and I think that would have been kind of a missed opportunity to put a little ambient light strip right here or something like that. You do get some ambient lighting kind of in this middle center floating console right here, which is kind of cool. But aside from that, like, I just really wish there was more ambient lighting, and it just feels so different from the i7 I drove recently. If you're a big fan of ambient lighting, I do think you might be a little disappointed. I really wish they did that little strip that Tesla did, anything like that. I also do want to compliment this honeycomb design. I think it's a very, very cool design to have for a speaker grill. All right, let's talk about the center floating console really quickly. It's a very interesting thing that I think works out quite well. It's pretty easy to use. You've got a wireless Qi charging pad right here, and this rubber does keep it very much in place so that you don't have to worry about it sliding around and losing charge. But yeah, this is very easy to use. You've got a pretty standard gear select, which I will say is getting harder and harder to find these days in the car industry, especially in electric vehicles. I do like that this is very easy to use, and this is also that bronze gold color again, so kind of cool and cohesive. BMW's electric vehicles are kind of interesting in that you actually do have to start and like stop them. And you get that cool little like jump to warp speed sound or whatever, like whenever you start the vehicle up, which I think is very, very cool. I don't know if you guys could hear that, but I think that is a very cool touch there. Maybe it's designed by Hans Zimmer as well. This car has the, like some professional package or whatever that gives you the iconic sounds from Hans Zimmer, which I think is so corny, but I kind of honestly love it. So one of the quirks of BMW's i-Series cars is that you do have to start it and stop it, right? Like most EVs, you just get in and you can immediately start shifting into gear. This one, you do have to start it and stop it like a normal, traditional internal combustion engine vehicle. To put it in this park is a very, very confusing task. I've said this in the other, you know, i4 and the i7, but you actually have to press this like button, which is the electronic park brake, or you can simply just turn off the vehicle. Both of those will just put the car in park, but very confusing for people who are used to kind of a normal vehicle where you have an actual park gear. So that was a little confusing. You've got your mode selectors here, which really, I don't know how many people use any of these. I'm very curious in the comments if you guys do have a BMW with iDrive 8.5. Do you guys use anything aside from personal and sport? I think these other ones are just kind of for show, honestly, but it's cool. They do cool things to the ambient lighting and things like that, and the music, so it's a neat idea. I just really don't know how practical it is. I do think they could clean up some of these things. Like some of these buttons just don't seem like things that people would ever really use. But you've got the 360 parking camera right here, which also turns on the parking assist, which is kind of interesting. 360 camera is very large and in charge, very beautiful. Looks great, and I actually did use the reverse assistant recently, and it worked quite well and get me in a good parallel parking spots. But yeah, otherwise you've got this button right here, which is basically how you can quick buttons to your driver assistance technology. You've got pretty much everything you would, oh, there's the iconic sounds button in case you want to turn it off. But you've got pretty much everything you would expect: lane departure warning, blind spot monitors, rear cross traffic alerts. You've got parking sensors all over this vehicle, front cross traffic alert, I believe, as well. And I will say one cool thing they do with the ambient lighting is they actually kind of flash red when there's like a pedestrian or a biker or something who's coming next to you and you're about to open your door. I think that's a very neat touch. I do love when vehicles use the ambient lighting for multiple purposes rather than just having it be pretty. And before I move on to the screens there, you've got this very nice like kind of glass shifter right here, which looks pretty cool, high quality, easy to move around in case you want to select something, but you don't want to reach all the way to the screen. I do like that there's multiple choices, I guess, but I kind of feel like they could clean this area up a little bit more. I do like the flat storage options you have right here with EVs. It's so cool being able to put, you know, your takeout food or just, you know, whatever, groceries, something like that right there is very nice because it doesn't slide as much as when you put it in the trunk. You've got 2 standard cup holders and 2 USB-C ports as well there. You've got some storage here as well. You've got a little small tray right there and then a deeper bin down there. And I do also want to point out that these are also that bronze gold, very, very pretty. And they actually do have ambient lighting in them as well. So that's kind of a cool area to put it, I guess. This is a really interesting thing that I haven't really figured out what it's for. It seems like it's for a phone because there's actually a little thing here that stops something from sliding down there. But why would you put your phone there if you have the wireless charging pad here? Kind of a bit of a confusing paradox there. All right, let's talk about this screen. This is your 14.9-inch infotainment screen running iDrive 8.5. Very, very nice. Apple CarPlay takes up the entire screen. Wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto are standard, and it's a great system. I will say my biggest complaint is that it definitely has a learning curve in terms of trying to figure out where things are. Like the options are kind of spread all over the place. Is it in system settings? Is it in driving settings? You know, like it's always a little difficult and not that intuitive. They want to make it like a smartphone, but I don't know if that's the right call with vehicle infotainment systems because it's not as simple, right? You can't just like scroll and things like that. So I don't know. A lot of people are going to complain that the HVAC controls are in the infotainment system, which I do agree is kind of annoying. If you want to turn on your heated seats, you do have to click this button. You've got 3-stage heated seats and steering wheel. And then if you want to pull up the entire climate menu, you have to hit that button. I mean, it's pretty intuitive and easy to use. If you want to sync the climates, you could press the button here. You can adjust how strong you want the automatic control to be, which I think is always really cool. And one kind of neat touch is if you hit the steering wheel, it'll turn that on, which I think is a pretty cool Easter egg right there. But aside from that, the actual infotainment system works very well. You can see it's very, very snappy, probably one of the quickest in the industry. BMW clearly spent a lot of money making this infotainment system very good, right? Like, look at this map display. It is, I mean, like, it doesn't even look that fast, but compared to other competitors, like, this is very, very quick. Obviously not going to be as good as Apple CarPlay or anything like that, but this is definitely one of the best running infotainment systems in the industry. Now let's move on to this screen right here, which is the 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster. This one's pretty cool. You can see right now it's actually in the like backup assistant mode because I hit that 360 camera. If I hit that again, it'll turn that off. So you don't have too much configurability with this screen. I've covered it in numerous other vehicles. I think kind of the cool thing to show right here is the AR feature. So a very high quality camera of what's in front of you. So if you use the built-in navigation system, it'll project arrows and things like that to show you where to turn, which I think is so cool and like really the future. But just wish it could somehow integrate with Apple CarPlay. It's kind of the eternal struggle right now of vehicle infotainment systems. You can adjust some other things here, but it's not too interesting. You can adjust the layout and things like that, but nothing too interesting. Let me get back to music here. You've got a heads-up display, which is part of one of the like premium package or whatever they call it, and it's quite nice, very large, and you can adjust the display of it. But again, it's nothing too practical. Like you can just show some other things, and like I do think the graphics look nice, like when you move the different displays and things like that. But otherwise, I pretty much just keep it in this assistance display because when you turn on the highway assistant, you get some really nice graphics. Like I can show you guys right here. Kind of shows you if it's going to be hands-free, if it's tracing the lanes for you, all that sort of good stuff. All right, I'll talk about the Highway Assistant really quickly because that is a very cool, phenomenal piece of engineering there. So Highway Assistant allows you to essentially drive hands-free, semi-autonomous driving if you're basically paying attention and you're in highway traffic and the lanes are easy to trace, right? Like there's definitely some requirements that have to be met in terms of the cameras and things like that. But if they are, then Highway Assistant takes over. You've got these cool green lines right here that show you if you're paying attention. They kind of track your eyes and make sure that you're paying attention to the road. And if you are, it is able to be used and it works phenomenally well. Again, the steering wheel is a pretty interesting quirk. You've got this hexagonal shape. You've got the bronze trim as well. I love that it's not just standard aluminum. It looks very, very cool, a bit more unique and special. You've got your adaptive cruise control functions on the left-hand side here and your media controls on the right-hand side. So nothing too interesting or unique about it, but I like that. It's easy to use. It's not confusing. It doesn't have button bloats all over it like a lot of other vehicles do. All right, stepping into the rear seats of the iX. Since this is a pretty large vehicle, kind of a family vehicle, obviously a very important part of the car, I will also note that I love the frameless windows. I think that is super cool. Looks very nice. All right, you've got a plethora of legroom and headroom. I would say headroom is crazy. It is huge. It is a very tall vehicle. You've got that beautiful pano sunroof as well. All right, you guys probably heard that siren outside, right? And just it's so quiet when you get in this vehicle. I will say that is one of the most impressive parts that make this feel like truly a $100,000 vehicle. The legroom is great, very generous, and you've got a very nice view back here, like tons of room, and you can fit an actual third person in the rear, which is pretty cool. You have no engine bay right here, so you can easily fit a smaller person, I would say. You've got this really interesting storage spot that I still cannot tell what this is for. Hide little Easter eggs, I guess. And then you've also got a USB-C on the back of both of the front seats. So kind of some cool amenities back here. But I will say just enjoying this giant pano sunroof, which is also thermally insulated, is a very, very cool feature. This middle area doesn't look the most luxurious, a lot of piano black right there, but you do have some functional controls here. You can just control some of your temperature controls and stuff like that. No heated seats in the back, which I was kind of surprised by for how expensive this vehicle is, and the fact that it's, you know, pretty much a family vehicle. I will say it's kind of cool to have the Harman Kardon badge on the rear seats, or on the rear door panels. I think that's a kind of a neat touch that not many manufacturers do these days. They didn't really cheap out on the materials inside of here, which is pretty cool. The seats look also very luxurious. You still got that beautiful quilted perforated Sensatec leather, and just kind of all throughout the rear here. It's a very, very nice experience, and everything still feels very high quality. You've got this nice armrest, cup holders right here. It's all quite good. I don't think anyone will complain about being in the rear seats of this vehicle. It's very luxurious. So when it comes to buying a BMW, specifically a $100,000 BMW like this vehicle, you definitely want that prized driving experience, right? You want to feel connected to the road and you want to feel like you're driving something special. And I do think the iX kind of gets you almost all of that way there in terms of some of the very cool technology and the advanced infotainment system and just in general the comfort, but it's not nearly as sporty as I think a lot of people might think it is. So just because it's a BMW doesn't mean that it's more sporty than some of the competitors. And I would say it still is in general, but the handling is just really not going to be as good as some of the smaller vehicles out there. So I think that's one thing to keep in mind is that when you're buying a vehicle this large and boxy, you're going to have to sacrifice some of that nice handling that you might find in the X3 even. This vehicle still is definitely nicer than you would expect, right? Like it can take corners faster than a normal box on wheels could. But the steering is very light. Even putting it into sport mode doesn't tremendously help with that. I think just overall, the kind of driving experience that a lot of people are looking for is a little bit missed in this iX. It's still a great vehicle, but I think it's mainly because of how good and quiet this car is. This car delivers a perfect luxury experience. And I think the people who buy the iX are hopefully more looking forward to that, because I think if you're looking for something that is very sporty and compete with the best out there, like the Porsche Cayenne, for example, it's not nearly as agile as the Cayenne. And what's interesting now is that with the iX, it's as expensive as the Cayenne. And, you know, with the X5, for example, you didn't really get that same price point. So that's kind of one disappointing thing about this vehicle, I would say, is that you're really just not getting the same bang for your buck, I would say. You've got very, very quick acceleration, 0 to 60 in 4.4 seconds. If you want more, spend another $20,000 and upgrade to the M60, and that kind of knocks your socks off. But with this one, you definitely don't feel like you need more speed, I would say. So acceleration is always fun, and I mean, it is crazy to think how fast this huge, heavy vehicle can go. So that's always going to be impressive. I think, you know, no one's going to complain about that. I do think a lot of the competitors in this space, like the AMGs and the Audi, you know, like SQ7, for example, have gotten very close to BMW in terms of delivering an excellent driving experience. But I will say that this vehicle, the luxury amenities of it are fantastic. Infotainment system beats Audi and Mercedes any day, and Porsche. And I think that BMW's done a great job with a lot of those luxury features. And this ride quality is fantastic, right? Super, super quiet, super isolated interior. I will say the build quality, I wouldn't say is the most what I would expect for a $100,000 vehicle. You're certainly not getting Porsche level build quality, but it's still decent, I would say. There's definitely been some rattles and creaks in some of the parts here, which is a little strange considering this vehicle has less than like 10,000 miles on it right now. But the interior materials are very, very exquisite and kind of deserving of that six-figure price tag. Overall, I think BMW really knows who this vehicle appeals to, right? Like, this is definitely much more of a luxury-oriented vehicle for families with a lot of disposable income, right? It's huge on the inside, so you can definitely fit 5 adults pretty comfortably, I would say. And you've got so much practicality with that huge trunk, right? You've got almost 80 cubic feet of cargo space if you put those second row seats down. And it's very impressive how much practicality you get out of this vehicle. The range is also excellent, right? Over 300 miles of all-electric range is pretty darn good, and definitely beats some of what you get with like the Audi e-Tron, for example. So overall, I mean, like, this vehicle has a lot of great things about it. It just also has a very high price point. So, and I will say, it probably appeals to people who want to make a statement as well, right? This is definitely a much more bold vehicle with that crazy grille. And I mean, I won't say that I hate the appearance and that it's objectively bad, even though a lot of other people definitely think that. But I just don't think it's a very great looking vehicle, right? Like, I definitely don't think it's a timeless thing, right? In like 10 years, I feel like we might look back on this and be like, wow, that is a pretty ugly vehicle. But I think right now it does look modern and it's very distinguishable, which I always like. I like being able to see a vehicle and be like, wow, this does not look like anything else on the road. And I think you get that with this vehicle, which is pretty cool. I think that's always a good thing. So overall, I really did enjoy my time with this vehicle. It is super luxurious, and I think it has a lot of great things going for it. Just like I said, high price tag. All right, if you want to check out some of my other reviews, you can click up here. Please subscribe down here, and I'll see you guys in the next review. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye.